Well, this is Tony here in Tokyo, and yes, I am still alive. The earthquake did not take me out, although I have to admit it did a very good job on trying to do so. I got out here a couple days ago with my wife Komiki to start a business, a software company. She went up to Hokkaido to see her parents, which is a little seaport town in northern Japan, while I stayed here and tried to do preparations. I got an office and was getting a cell phone. And I walked into a store called Big Camera. It's in a place called Shinjuku, Tokyo, which is like central Tokyo. And as I was about ready to sign my contract, something strange happened. It felt like the room was moving and like I was riding on some kind of wave. Now, I had a few drinks the night before, and it wasn't that many, and there was no reason the room should have been moving. And then I started hearing some sounds, and I heard the Japanese word jishin, which means earthquake. I took that as my cue to get the heck out of that building. Fortunately, I was on the first floor, and it was open to the street. As I was trying to get into the street, I had trouble walking because the ground underneath me was shaking sideways and up and down, and I felt like I was on some kind of almost like a broken roller coaster. As I got into the street, it was shaking up and down, and I had to bend down to barely keep my balance. But I kept hearing noises of popping sounds and steel creaking, which reminded me that I was surrounded by 40, 50, 60, 70-story buildings that might fall at any moment. I have to admit that I thought coming back to Japan at that moment was a really bad idea. I thought that I was going to bite it. I was waiting for buildings to fall down. But one of the good things about Japan is, they have like 200 engineers for every lawyer, where I think in the United States we have 200 lawyers for every engineer. And all the buildings are built really, really well. So, although, when I was looking at some of the buildings, they were literally doing stuff like this, going back and forth and making creaking sounds, none of them fell around me. Now, I did see some cracks in buildings, some of the smaller, older buildings when I went home later, but as this was all going on, I ran into a Central Park area where there's a huge television, and the buildings were kind of far away, so if anything fell, I had at least a small chance of surviving. I stayed there for about a half hour and watched the news, and I saw there was a tsunami going to Hokkaido, which, was really not good news because that's where my wife and family, her family's at. But fortunately in Japan, communication's really good, and I knew that, hopefully she would get some news. I eventually was able to call the father and found out that they did take cover. They went to a higher land area and in the top of a building or something, and fortunately the tsunami in their area was not very big, and they're okay, and they're all fine. Myself, on the other hand, I had to basically figure out how to walk home because all the public transportation was shut down. The trains were down, the subways were down. There's 20 million people here, and it reminded me as I wrote some emails to people of like War of the Worlds. I mean, literally there were just people, scrambling to get food and walking, miles to get home. It took me about 3.5 hours or so to get home, and although I need the exercise, I didn't plan on having that much exercise my first few days here. But I did eventually get home. That was the good news. After I got home, though, there was shaking all night long. I woke up about 4 or 5 times. These were mild compared to the first one, but still earthquakes nonetheless. Japan in the last 24 hours has had something like 160 tremors and earthquakes, and there's like 5 or 6 other major earthquakes in the last day. Fortunately, none, in my area that was major, just trembling and stuff that's quite annoying because you just don't know if this is another big one or what. I hate to admit it, but I actually slept in my clothes last night so I could run out of my building if something bad happened. The tremors are getting better and better, but as I'm sitting here watching the Japanese news, We have a nuclear reactor that's in, I think, Fukushima, which is about 160 miles from where I live. And it had an explosion, and the government, can't confirm or deny, or they just don't know, or they don't want to tell anybody. But looks like they had a radiation leak, and they're having problems cooling down the reactor, which is obviously not good because it is a nuclear reactor. So, but the Japanese also, they're very good on the technology. They have 1/3 of the electric comes from nuclear power, so hopefully they'll get the coolant to whatever it is they need so this thing doesn't become a big problem. The last thing we need now is to have, some nuclear reactor that's spewing out, radiation. I'm hoping that this all clears up in the next couple days, because tomorrow here is Sunday. I'm supposed to, start in my office on Monday and try to start this business and get this business going, but it's been really crazy. I do think that the news, shows nothing but the damage. People should know that, maybe there'll be 1,000 or 2,000 people that are dead. Yes, that's really, really bad, and there's relief workers trying to help people, and yes, the nuclear reactor is really, really bad if that thing goes, but I don't want to make it out of proportion either. Most of Tokyo now is getting back, to looking normal at least. And, Japan's a strong country, and I think they'll get through this somehow. The only thing that really concerns me is the nuclear reactor right now. And, thank God, my wife Komiki and her family are fine. I'm fine currently. And I'm looking forward to doing this business once this does settle. So I hope this video helps people to see, kind of from a personal perspective, what's going on out here. And hope everybody, my friends and family in the U.S., hope you guys are having a good time. I kind of wish I was back there this last week, to be honest. I could have maybe waited one more week before getting out here. It might have been a little bit easier. Take care, everyone. Bye.